correction. And then Mike Edwards is the head coach at Edgbaston Priory, and was the former assistant coach at Wycliffe. So I think with that as a brief introduction, I'm going to hand over to the Edgbaston team to kick off the presentation.
Great. So good evening, guys. Mike Edwards here. I hope you're all struggling through lockdown okay. So we've just pulled together a presentation really, just to share some ideas and some of our knowledge as to where we've got to as a club within the squash and racquetball department. So first of all, and just do shout if there are any technical issues here, but we're just going to share a very quick video, just a 2-minute video. So for the people that haven't been at the club before, or want to get a feel for what the club looks like now, this is a promotional video that we've pulled together in the last couple of years. So just share that with you now.
Welcome to Edgbaston Priory Club, an oasis in the heart of Birmingham, a place for people to play racket sport, work out and relax with family and friends. We're a private members club with a proud heritage of racket sport dating back to the birth of lawn tennis. We regularly play host to major tournaments attracting the world's best players. From playing on all the Grand Slam surfaces and working out in our light airy gym to swimming outdoors all year round, our members enjoy the wonderful environment we provide. We welcome members of all playing abilities and all fitness levels. Whether you're a complete beginner or an experienced player, starting your fitness journey or up for a new challenge, we'll help you achieve your goals and be on the journey with you.
As an adult tennis member, there's a full range of activities you can get involved in, and obviously an extensive coaching programme for beginners all the way through to advanced players. And our main focus is to introduce you to other members so you really get to enjoy playing tennis in our great club. And for our juniors, well, we've got a great coaching programme all the way from mini tots all the way through to university level. For us, we want kids to stay in the game, so it's about using tennis and create opportunities for them and to get them to love the game.
Squash and racquetball are very popular sports at the club. Both offer a very good workout in a really short space of time. There's a good social scene at the club, as well as leagues, ladders, competitions and tournaments for the people that want to compete.
We've got 2 heated swimming pools, one inside, one outside. We've got aqua classes as well in the swimming pools. We've got varied class timetables, so you can do anything from relaxation, yoga, meditation, all up until indoor cycling, aerobics, body attack, body pump. We've got something for everybody. We've got personal trainers working in the gym as well, and they're always there for advice. So there's a strong sense of community with the fitness classes, and everybody will motivate each other within the classes.
For our members, the facilities are just one part of why they want to be here. We provide a safe haven, a sense of community, a place to belong with good friends who share the same ideals and values that you have. If you're thinking of joining, whatever your goals may be, I am confident we have the team to help you achieve them. Come and belong.
Okay, so what we'd like to move on to this evening and just to present to you really was we worked obviously very closely with Sharon and Vicky leading up to this. And I just probably want to say before I forget at the end, just thank you for the invite, and a big thanks to them for pulling us into giving you some information. So thank you Sharon, and thank you Vicky for inviting us first of all. So moving on to our presentation, we've just done a PowerPoint for you. Just move this into, hopefully this is now just a slideshow to take you through some key topics. So Edgbaston Prior Club is a rackets and fitness club based in Birmingham. Just want to give you a little bit of information about the club and how we funded our big redevelopment, which we opened in 2013. So we went through a £13 million redevelopment programme. We got a small amount of funding from England Squash and a big funding pot from the LTA, but we did have a very large, and we still continue to have a very large bank loan, which the club put a very good business plan together for repaying this over a number of years. So I think the important thing to note here is I think it's important for each club to take on board scaling up and scaling down, just depending upon what facilities you've got at the club. So we've tried to tailor this to every type of club that will be on the call. So whether you've just got a squash court with a bar, or whether you've got gym facilities or tennis courts as well. So as a club, we've got a club vision and some mission statements that we promote to members and external people. So we have a vision to deliver an exceptional membership experience which promotes racket sport and well-being. To achieve this, we basically set out 5 key mission statements, which each individual department feed into. So we tailor our member and junior activities to ensure value. We attract and retain the best staff to deliver an exceptional membership experience. We generate sufficient operating surpluses to maintain and invest in our facilities. We fulfill our partner commitments to attract world-class athletes and tournaments, and we work with the local community to inspire future generations of racket players. So in 2015, before we set the vision and mission, we reached out to our members and did a satisfaction survey, and they came back with 4 key areas that they'd expect the staff and they would like to see the staff demonstrate day in, day out. These are very, very important for staff to come on board and understand why and what we do. So they're welcoming, member focused, competent and proactive. So I think a lot of clubs won't have a vision and mission. I think it's very important to have those. So if you've got a senior management team or a chief executive or a committee that's leading the way, I think it's important to try and pull together a vision and mission for your club that's relevant. And just a key learning that we've had, so we had a new chief executive appointed in 2020, just before COVID. But a key learning for us and a key thing that he felt was very important was he got individual departments together and shared their individual department goals. And it's the first time we've ever done that, and it certainly made it a lot more transparent and got our team working together from a senior management level. So the importance of a club coach. You know, myself and Mike have worked with each other for years. We feel that it's a bread and butter of a successful club. We're lucky enough at the club to be able to pay a head coach a retained position. And there's a lot of clubs around Warwickshire that have had success by having an individual coach attached to their club full time. So again, we're fully aware not every club is in a position where they can afford and justify a retained position, but having a regular, consistent coach is key. We feel it's important for the coach then to come in and build a good support network around them. So something that we appointed a new squash chairman a couple of years ago, who's on the call this evening, Peter, thanks for joining. And I think he'd support me in saying that it's very important to get a very good network around the coaches, whether that's assistant coaches, volunteers, and the right people on the committee. And I believe we've got a number of committee-led clubs here this evening. So it's getting the right people that are on the committee for the right reasons. We also feel it's very important to have a coach development program and to develop our coaches' knowledge. And I've mentioned this already really, but the consistency and communication amongst your coaching team is really important for any program that you're offering throughout the year. So the squash and racquetball program and events and the success that we've had in these. So we strongly believe that every club should have a junior and adult player pathway. We're lucky enough to have a number of coaches delivering on this, but we have a program that starts from 3-year-olds and all the way to, you know, people that are retiring, playing racquetball and potentially playing paddle and tennis as well. So we believe it should include individual and group coaching, club nights, leagues and ladders, regular socials, and then potentially some camps in the school holidays, just to name a few ideas there. We believe that squash and racquetball is for everybody and anybody. Just
something there, Mike. We also make sure that we have a program where the coaching team has there's enough courts for the members every night, so that there's a limit to the amount of coaching that we do. It's not too restrictive at all from a coaching perspective, and from a business perspective, it's not restrictive at all. But it's important that we did that, and that came from the committee as well. And we find that quite a useful tool to have.
Internal and external events of any profile are key. So as a club, I mean, I've been there over 10 years now. We certainly built up to hosting the British Junior Open and the European Teen Championships last year. But again, we didn't start with these major events. We started with some small internal events, some bronze and silver England squash events. So we think that's key. We've just given you a list of a few ideas that we do for our internal members with events. We just put some handicap events on. We run a yearly club championships. We run some mini league afternoons, and we created a mini junior series event where each of our juniors can enter depending upon what ball category they're playing in, to what ball they're being coached with. And then I just want to share two very successful stories that we've had. One is a bring a friend scheme that we're currently using for juniors, and we certainly are going to look at using that for adults when we come back from COVID. And another one, we do what's called a Give It a Go program. So this is basically where we offer a 12-week coaching program free of charge to adult members who have never played squash before. So we tap into our tennis members and our gym category and just look at giving them 12 weeks of coaching for absolutely free of group coaching, 1 hour a week. After 6 weeks, if they've come for 6 weeks in a row, they get a free racket and ball. And we chatted to Paul about this before we came on the call. It's quite interesting just to gather some numbers around our retention on that. So when we run these programs 3 times a year, our retention numbers are about 60% on racquetball and 40% on squash. And then we've just given some key indicators at the bottom as to why we feel you guys and every club should be running a coaching program and events. It adds value to your membership, it generates revenue, it engages the members, it attracts new members, it will certainly increase participation, they're all very social, and it increases court usage and the profile of your club. This is just a picture from the European Teen Championships last year, probably the proudest moment that me and Mike have had working together. We delivered the event single-handedly, got sponsors, hired an all-glass court, and will probably be known as one of the best European Championships in European history, according to Zena Waldridge, which is we're very proud of. Mike, do you want to jump in here and I'll have a little glass of water?
Yeah, how do we, as you say, how do we attract new members? As Mike mentioned earlier on, not only do we bring a friend, we do a refer a friend scheme, and there's opportunities there for the member to have £50 put onto their membership card, which is a useful, which they can use by the bar to buy food, to use in to the shop, etc. We have targeted marketing programs set out by our membership team who work in the club. We've got our social media has actually improved a lot over the last 4 or 5 years, don't you think, Mike? I think our social media has really improved. I think that's an area for clubs to really to improve upon there. The open days, which have always been very successful, and also we do have special offers on joining fees as well. We do have, obviously, as discussed, we have this great training program, and we host the events, not just the BGO and ETC. We host the tennis championships, which really does put the club on the map throughout the city and internationally now. I mean, when the ETC was on, just from the squash playing perspective, we were very, very fortunate that the players and the British Open, they say this is one of the best clubs they've ever been to, and I'm really pleased that we're so welcoming to these countries and to all the players. And obviously in 2022 we're looking forward to hosting the Commonwealth Games in the city, and hopefully we'll be a club that will be used for we won't be hosting any events, but we'll be there to look after teams when they first arrive.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. So our relationship with England Squash and Warwickshire Squash, we believe it's a two-way relationship. We have a good partnership with England Squash, not just because of the funding programme that we got back in sort of 2012, but They sort of come into the club and use us for a number of different meetings, coach education programs, clearly a lot of tournaments, and we work very closely with the event team at England Squash and work with them strategically as to how they're delivering their events. As a club, and I think as any club in Middlesex, we all want squash and racquetball to thrive in our area, and clubs should just take ownership of this. It's the club's responsibility. We have a Warwickshire Coaches WhatsApp group, which is very proactive, coaches reaching out to each other weekly. And we've got what I'd call like an open door policy for court usage for the county. So I think that's a very important part to play really in terms of getting your grassroots in your county in to run county coaching sessions and potentially the county close that we've held at the club.
I think the Warwickshire group is something that we're actually really proud of. I think all the coaches in Warwickshire are very proud of, and I know we're looking to get together quite soon, because obviously we're going to be back on court hopefully in the next few months, and we'll be ready to go on, but hopefully working even closer with our friends and colleagues in the other clubs.
Yeah, it's a really, really important point there. It's the communication and the partnership that you have in the local area is really important. Again, that probably feeds into really well about building relationships and external partnerships. So we've got a very good relationship with a local university, so University of Birmingham and Birmingham City University. So very different relationships. Birmingham City University basically use us as a club and our coaches for their coaching program. The University of Birmingham, we have a very good relationship moving forwards with the sort of co-hosting of major events. We also do some coaching for Bourneville College, who come in and use our courts. I think it's important to touch on schools, and I think it's very, there's a two-way of looking at this. I think we work very closely with a lot of private and grammar school, which link into our club very well from a wealth perspective, but we have also worked in a number of different schools in deprived areas. We unfortunately as a club don't tend to get many numbers back through that program, but we've seen over 900 kids, I think, in the last year in deprived areas, and everybody now knows what squash is. They've had to go on the mini nets and the mini walls, and it potentially has opened up a door for them to play at another club or certainly.
Absolutely. And we got 700 kids to come along during the European Team Championships, and they all got to watch the squash on the glass court and play around and have photographs around near the court, etc. And it was just a lovely experience for them. Obviously, we're still trying to work with them, and we're still trying to keep in contact with them. It's not easy for us to go to those schools in these areas, but we're really working hard with them.
Yeah, and I think I've listened to a number of podcasts, as I'm sure a number of coaches have, in lockdown 3, just to, literally just to give yourself something to do. And one of the ones that Nick Taylor's been doing just really highlights the importance and the success that he's had in schools. So I think that's paramount as to getting kids into the sport and raising the profile of the game. Just another quick thing I want to sort of touch on. So one of our assistant coaches, Dion Safri, set up a Empower charity. It was nearly 18 months ago now. She did this off her own back, and the model is very similar to Rackets Cubed, which a number of clubs may have heard of before. There's funding there, there's sponsors available, and she runs a program in an all-girls school in a very deprived area where they struggle to have a hot meal at dinner. And she provides an hour of coaching, an hour of education, and a hot meal at the end of it. So that's been a really advantaged program that we've just sort of worked on in the last 2 years, really, and fits in well with our program around the club.
Mike, let me just pause. There's a good question that's come in just in terms of the outreach program you have with those schools. Can you just talk a bit about how you charge for it, and how much it costs to run something like that?
Yeah. So okay. So it's for us. Our main schools program is ran within a grammar and private school who are fortunate enough to have minibuses themselves and can afford and budget a coaching hourly rate. So the private schools and the grammar schools tend to come to us as a club. They bring a full minibus of 16 kids. We take over 4 courts and we charge an hourly, like a coach's hourly rate, which is depending upon the coach or the club that you're based at. I'd say the schools in the deprived areas, the club has funded themselves out of a goodwill gesture of what we should be doing in the community. But actually, to be fair, and it relates to a bottom point of sponsorship below. There's a lot of businesses that want to sponsor goodwill and your work in schools and deprived areas. So it's actually worked really well with Birmingham City University coming in. So not only are we their coaches and we do their programs for them, but they're actually a club sponsor now, and we use that sponsorship money to work in some deprived areas through their funding. So hopefully that's answered that question for you.
And again, the Empower charity was money that was raised through, again, businesses,
fundraising,
Leon raised as well, which was well over, was it £25,000 she raised?
Yeah, she's currently got, so Peter Vince, actually, he's our squash chairman, is one of the sponsors, and we cover a picture, I believe, in a minute of how we launched that event. But yeah, she's sort of got about £10,000 sat in the bank at the minute, and we're looking at taking that the number of classes that we deliver every week up to sort of 2 or 3. So and having a charity status again is quite a good way to be approaching sponsors for sponsorship money and for fundraising events for people to put money into. We found. Yeah. So hopefully that's okay. Again, just the key areas as to why we think you should be building these relationships. So there's potential revenue there for you. There's a lot of opportunities and doors that these can open. It increases participation. It potentially attracts new memberships. It certainly brings in sponsorship. And you just need to be doing your bit in the community and the areas that need help. And
right, Mike, just one more question, because I think this will help everyone on the call. But there's a question from Martin. What are the most effective methods you found for connecting in with schools and bringing in potential new adults? How do you go about that?
Can I answer that question about the schools, Mike?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
the schools, we work very closely with the local education authority as well as the sports team in Birmingham City Council. It's not actually very easy just to phone up a school and just say, hey, unless you know someone who works in the school, it's not easy just to turn up. So we had to work closely with, as I said, the local education authority with the City Council sports department, and they we wrote to them. We've got relationship going with those guys. They were then able to send the information out to these schools for us on our behalf. And then we started to create that relationship. Once they were quite keen, we would then, the relationship could then begin. And then the talking could start, and then we could arrange things. So that was certainly from the school's perspective.
And I think
it's a long process, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it is a slightly long process, but actually it is worth it. So, if you're building a program that's going to start, let's say in September now, get in touch with them now, because you can do a lot of groundwork, because those school teachers are still working, and there's a lot of emails and so on, and they are going to be looking to do a lot of extracurricular work over the next couple of years to build up and help the children over the next few years to build up their knowledge again. So anything we can do to help, or sports can do to help, I think it's important. So it's worth doing now, starting now.
Yeah, and I don't think that schools are easier to approach, and they're all like literally begging you to do the coaching. It's quite a ruthless task, and it is quite time consuming. So don't feel that you just, if you phone one school and you don't get anywhere, please don't give up. Try another one, because when I first started at the club, it's 10 years ago, but we had 0 schools in the club, and we've probably reached out to about 15 schools around Birmingham over the years, and have a very good relationship with 5 local schools currently. But yeah, it's not been easy. So try not to give up too early after you get your first sort of knock back on a school. Just keep trying.
Sorry, someone's just asked a question regarding how do we go in the mornings with the local schools. We've been able to go in during their PE time and we've set aside times. They've set aside times in their curriculum, which has been great. With the private schools, obviously they can come to the courts, and they will come again. They've set aside times throughout their curriculum to either come to the club, whether it be in the morning or the afternoon during their school period.
And again, I think that's a good way. I've got a slide at the end that talks about participation, but schools is a key area to increase your off-peak usage. So as Mike said, in terms of their program throughout sort of 9 till 3, there's a lot of usage that they could potentially be taken up for courts there that would otherwise be empty. Okay, so moving on just to coaching, club activity and engagement in lockdown. I feel like as a club, we've done a fairly good job with engaging, not just amongst coaches, but with the community generally. Big things that the coaches have been up to. We've done a number of Q&As, quizzes, online fitness, match analysis, team meetings, and obviously clearly a lot of the coaches have had some personal projects that they've been doing. I think the key thing to take away from this for me as a coach, and I think Mike has as well very well, is it's been some downtime, which everybody can also could always do with, but we've reflected and analysed very well as a coach, but then as a club, I think that's been a key one for us. Yeah,
I mean, we were very fortunate with the Q&As. We've had 2 world number ones joined us. We've had Mohamed El Shabaghi and a few weeks ago, Ali Farag joined us for a Q&A for the kids, not just at the club, but across the West Midlands. We invited the West Midlands kids in, and in a few weeks' time, we're going to be actually inviting the whole country to come and join it. Well, we want juniors and especially girls to talk to Sarah Jane Perry, to do a Q&A with SJ, and but we're really looking for girls. So that a lot of that information is going to come out next week, but to do that one.
And then a key one for us probably, and I guess it might be quite similar to some London clubs that we have a very good communication network with. So as a club, we made the financial decision we needed to make where we hadn't been, we've since lockdown 2 and 3, we've ended up having to charge our members the full rate of their membership fee. So we did credit for lockdown 1, but we're not in a financial position to credit for lockdown 2 and 3. So again, communication has been key for our club, and reward for the people that have been staying. So we've been doing a number of online quizzes. We've got a weekly online Zoom fitness class that all of our fitness trainers are working towards, and a number of sort of monthly challenges and weekly challenges for our members. So I think forgetting that we have charged in lockdown 2 and 3, and I'm fully aware a number of clubs around the country have not been doing this. It's still very important to get that communication going, whether that's through your social media channels, emails, or whatever. I think that is key, whether you're charging your members a fee or not in these lockdowns. So hopefully everyone's been doing that.
Mike, just before you move on, you spoke about the various kind of offerings you have, one of which was the 12-week free coaching program.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a bit about the success of that and numbers of people? How much did it cost to do that type of thing, especially giving them a racket and a ball at the end of it? Yeah. Do you just broadly, just high level numbers you can share?
Yeah, so high level. So it's a 12-week program that we do. We brand it as Give It a Go. We do it for squash. We do it for racquetball. We run a 1-hour session a week for each. So it's 2 hours a week coaching cost for squash and racquetball for 12 weeks. So you've got 24 hours of coaching at whatever your coaching rate is. So in Birmingham, we're sort of £25 an hour on a group program. And then, I mean, the cost of a racket and ball is absolutely minimal, bearing in mind most of and I say most, probably 80 to 90% of the people, if they come for the first 6 weeks in a row, they get their racket and ball, you've got them already. So they're going to upgrade their membership. They're going to continue to play. They're going to go into your internal leagues. They're potentially then going to buy numerous rackets and balls off you moving forward. I guess we're lucky enough to have some accounts open from the club shop, which we actually ended up closing a year ago. But you know, we've got some decent accounts and a good club sponsor of Ashaway and Black Knight on board that do good trade account offers for us on rackets and balls, but it doesn't need to be your head and your Technofiber like 150 quid racket. It's just a basic beginner racket and a £2 ball you're giving them. So I think
what we're getting back is their membership, the upgrading the membership.
Yeah,
and that's the increase. That's where it's not actually cost. So if Mike or I are doing these classes, it's not actually costing the club £25 an hour as such, because it's all part of our role. If we work with some of our other coaches who are self-employed, yes, we have to pay them, but it's not perhaps as much as £25. But the actual, for us, a racket and a ball isn't a problem when we've increased our membership package and there's more money coming in.
Yeah, so it's hard. Yeah, so I don't want to put a figure on it, because every club, you know, we tried to tailor this so that, you know, if you're a small 2-court club or your coach is a level 1 or 2 coach, everyone's going to get paid slightly differently. So we tend to look at a figure of about £800 to deliver it as a club over a 12-week program, and we do that 3 times a year, and we tend to tie it into the school term times, just because we feel that although this is adult driven, even the adults and the parents are into a bit of a routine through the school's program, so that, you know, by the time their kids are back at school, they've got no child minding to worry about, and they're into a bit of a routine then as well. So the timing's probably key, really, of starting that in a term, in the school term time. So yeah, hopefully that's answered. But very successful. I think the key to it is it's not just a 12-week program. It's you're rewarding them at 6 weeks with a racket and a ball, and you're only rewarding them if they've turned up for those 6 weeks of coaching. You know, if you have somebody that turned up once or twice, you're probably not going to pull them in. And I think the other key areas, obviously, you've got different types of clubs here, all targeting different types of members that aren't squash. So you could target your social members, your gym members, your tennis members, your badminton members, whatever it is, depending upon how your club's set up. Okay, and then finally, and probably the most important slide in here really is participation. And we want to just give you a bit of data and some ideas around and further knowledge into what we do at the club. So I think every club in England squash are fully aware that we have a lot of irregular players that we need to get playing more often. So leisure centres, I think, are a prime example of people that play irregularly, but a lot of leisure centres don't have a club night set up, internal leagues, and we believe this is just bread and butter for how successfully you can get irregular players playing more often. They need a bit of structure. They need a few free sessions available to them as part of their membership to entice them and to encourage them to play more frequently. And then just looking at sort of conversion of categories for us. So we have a tennis category, a squash category for membership, and a gym category, and a casual social membership. So it's how we convert those tennis to squash and racquetball, how we convert those gym people to the court. And as we mentioned earlier, the key area of that and the key parts of that for us is our Give It a Go program, as well as sort of open days and free taster sessions that we tend to have available all the time.
Mike, we've got a couple of questions just coming in on the cost of joining the club. Price of junior membership. Could you cover that quickly, please? Yeah, so our cost as an adult member, generally we have a joining fee, which is advertised at £300 as a one-off fee, but is normally 50% discounted for rackets members. They then have a monthly fee of around £110 as an adult, and they have a 10% discount if they pay for the year in advance. So there's an incentive then for them to pay for the year ahead, and clearly then there's a cash generation for us as a club. Our junior membership, Peter might want to jump in here and correct me if he thinks I'm wrong, I believe is around £300 a year. And again, you know, as I said at the beginning, every club is different. We are quite a high profile, high end
club, but we believe without the membership fees, we're going to struggle. So 80% of our income throughout the year is based on membership fees, and we have quite stringent targets for our membership team to hit. And at the end of the day, that's a cash generator for us to reinvest in facilities to keep moving the club forward and to pay off a bank loan.
Yeah, I mean, the only point I'd add to that is really, obviously I've played at a few clubs over the years, and they're all of different standards, but Priory, when it made that decision 7 or 8 years ago to really invest in the facilities, you know, you're being a member, you know, you're getting a lot more than just a squash court to play on. If you're a squash member, you know, you've got access to this gym, a restaurant, bar, indoor outdoor pool, the grounds. There's a lot goes with it, and that obviously, you know, there's got to be paid for, so it impacts the membership. Whereas we go and play in the Berkshire League, and some clubs are £250 a year, you know. So it's really where you're pitching your facilities, really.
Yeah. And members don't have to pay court fees, squash court fees, or tennis court fees, except for the indoor tennis court. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think a lot of it comes down to how you value. You know, quite clearly, we're fully aware as a club that not everybody can afford that DD cost every month, but it's trying to engage with the members that are there, make sure they're getting value for their membership, increasing participation, getting them on court more, engaging them in the classes, making sure they're using the swim store and a steam room and that sort of stuff.
Mike, there's another message, another questions come up a few times, and a number of people have asked about how many members we have, and possibly sort of squash, but we don't really have a squash membership. We have a rackets membership.
Yeah, so I think
it's not so easy. But.
Yeah, the easiest numbers to give you there. So pre-COVID, we were a 2,900 adult member club. We're currently 2,400, so we've lost 500 members over the last year due to COVID. And yeah, rackets members, we track. We have a My Courts booking system, which is very good, and it gives us a lot of data. We have what we would call 300 active members. So we class an active member as somebody that's played once a month. That again has dropped down since COVID, and in between lockdowns, we were, again, this sort of data, we were about 30 to 40% down on participation after lockdown 1, going into lockdown 2, and then sort of where we are now. So we've had a big drop off of people that have either left the club or people that weren't comfortable by following the guidelines and coming back to return to play. And as it says, it's sort of in the bottom of the slide, our plan for reopening has started, and one of our main things is going to be participation and membership, in terms of getting our club more stable and getting people on courts and engaging with the schools program and stuff again.
Mike, just coming in there,
yeah.
I think it's fair to say that the majority of leavers have been what I'd call leisure gym members. We have seen a massive excess of the racket players. It's been primarily people who really use the club just as a gym. They're the ones that really have moved away.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, thanks, Peter. That's a good point.
And so, though we have 300 regular squash players, a lot of the tennis players do come across and play squash, and many of the squash players do go out and play tennis as well, and racquetball, obviously.
Yeah.
So there is a big crossover of that, and that's improving all the time.
Well, thanks. It's Ray Waller here. Just wanted to come in because I'm listening to all this, and it's fantastic. And I just want to give a little bit of a perspective from Hazelwood's point of view, because we're not that much different from yourselves. We're a members club. We owe £800,000 to the members. And I would say to you that it's something worth looking at. We run a members loan scheme. We pay currently 4.5%, which is rather good in today's environment. It's on a 3-year rolling contract, and our whole debt is financed by the club and by club members, and not a bank. Unfortunately, as we all probably know, banks aren't always the most forgiving and you have covenants to meet, etc., etc. So we have £800,000 outstanding. But what we have, which, and like I say, if I lived near Edgbaston Prior, I'll be the first member to come along. I think it's a fantastic club. We have 6 indoor courts, and 4 outdoor tennis courts. We have 2 paddle courts and 3 squash courts. So squash is relatively small, but we can only get £250 a year membership for squash and 380 for tennis. And it's incredibly low when I see what you're getting. And I've been pushing and pushing and pushing as chair of the club and chair of squash to try and change the whole synopsis to this monthly fee, but it's almost impossible. And one of the things that makes it impossible is we have, in the vicinity of 5 square miles, 13 other tennis clubs. We have in the vicinity of 5 square miles, probably 8 squash clubs. If we go into Coolhurst, we go into Cumberland, etc., etc. And these people, everybody has to do what they have to do. But when you've got us charging £6.50 for a court, and just down the road, people are leaving us to go to pay £5.50 for a court, I do wonder what the world's coming to. Everybody's paying $2.25 each, and they don't want to pay $3.25 each. So in the end, we come down to money. Everything seems to come down to money. What are people prepared to pay for? You, fortunately, and I mean, there's no way we could have 2 swimming pools. We have now got 2 paddle courts, which I must say has probably brought the club together more than anything else since I've been chair for the last 12 years. It has, and also with the COVID, it's cross-related everybody, because obviously squash players have had to come outside. We gave squash players total membership of the club, or the tennis club, because at one point, obviously we couldn't play squash, but we could play tennis. So it has brought all the club together. But whilst I hear what you say, I just wish we were in the same realm of you. And I believe what you're charging is exactly what David Lloyd is charging local to us. Yeah. But that's not a club. You're a members club, which hopefully, I mean, we do get a lot of members come from David Lloyd because they're fed up with that ethos to come to a club which is running leagues, running functions, and it is a members club. We don't make any money. In fact, we lose money year on year if you take the amortization of our debt. But getting to where you are, I'm afraid, is going to be impossible on the landlocked financial situation we are.
No, I'll just go back to what Mike said earlier on. I mean, from our perspective, obviously, most clubs are like yourselves there, Ray. I think there's so many clubs like yours all over the country, and it is difficult. We're very, very fortunate, and we're not afraid, and we're certainly not. We just are it's an exceptional club. We are, and the socio-economic group that's part of the club have got resources, has got money for that. There are lots of clubs around our area like yourselves, but we are who we are, and we're not afraid to sort of stand up and say, look, this is what we are. We are an exceptionally good club. We are not David Lloyd by any stretch. I'm not a David Lloyd keen lover, but that's not to say David Lloyd's not a great place to go to. Just not my cup of tea. But we are very different to David Lloyd. We are a club. We are a members club. We welcome people to the club. And we hope everyone feels the same way when they come to the club. We're not perfect in any stretch of the imagination. There's always the odd mishap, but generally speaking, our members are very happy with what we offer as a whole club, as a whole. But I say, I think it is really difficult, and it's just whether or not you're prepared. I don't know whether you can. It's just put your head above the parapet and say, no, we're doing this.
Well, we do in the terms that we don't try and compete on price with the local tennis clubs. But like I'm having this discussion with you, I have the discussion with LTA as well, because they're not great in funding. I mean, I know you got 7 million to build the centre there. I think was it 7 million? Oh, it's quite a lot of money. Yeah. We haven't got one loan with the LTA or one grant from the LTA for years and years and years. And in fact, the last one I chucked out when Mr. Draper was chair, chairman, yeah, I think he was. But yeah, the cost of us using them to build our new courts was more than if we'd done it ourselves. Is ridiculous. So you know, I know the funding scenario that we're all faced with is incredibly difficult, but I'm just hoping that the organisations like the squash organisation and the LTA do some form of program in putting clubs in different areas of what they're aiming for, because still, and the LTA are even worse to blame, I think, than squash, they're supporting clubs with 2 courts in the middle of a field.
Right.
And they're supporting tennis clubs with 3 courts with no clubhouse and giving them money for floodlights.
Ray, can I suggest, I think that's really interesting. Can I suggest we take that particular discussion offline?
Okay, no problem. I mean, no,
okay, just to keep, because I'm just conscious of time. We've got about 6 minutes left.
Okay, but I'm just saying they need to start, the associations need to start focusing on us bigger clubs. Don't get me wrong, they shouldn't get rid of the little ones, but they shouldn't focus funds on them, and they should be pushing because people today want facilities, in my opinion, like you've got at Edgbaston Prior. They're great, and I would join tomorrow. We're not able to do that, but we don't get any funding to even try to get anywhere near it. But okay, I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. So yeah, I think I've covered the sort of conversion of one sport to squash and racquetball through those programs that we run. Again, you know, as Ray said, every club is different, but we're lucky enough to have a dedicated female only coach. So we've got Dion Safri based at the club, who was a former 40 in a world whisper player. And you know, but without a female coach, I think hosting and organizing female only sessions is key to your program, and just sort of developing some coach education and potentially upskilling a young 16-17-year-old junior player that you've got at the club to become a qualified coach would be very beneficial. We've had a lot of females take up the sport because we've had a female coach in place, and a lot of junior girls sort of aged 11 to 13 pick up the sport because they can come down and have a Friday night session with all their friends, all their girlfriends, and that's been very successful for us from a participation perspective for females.
Definitely.
Juniors are key, and I think we talked about coach being key earlier, but juniors are key to any club. They're the future of your club, and you need to be running a program for all ages and all abilities. When I first came to Priory 10 years ago, we had a very stubborn committee who would only let us coach on a Saturday morning, and we've really developed that into junior coaching allowed in peak hours on Saturday, on Sunday, every day of the week. We're running a junior program 6 days of the week now, and I think there's a big message around getting kids on court. Suddenly, then the parents are going to start playing, and
yeah, I think that's been really key for us, hasn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
Because you know, not only do we do the junior sessions, we've had the sort of by the side of it, the give it a go sessions have really helped, because we've got our junior program on a whatever night of the week, and certainly on a Saturday morning we have give it a go. That links in with our junior program. So on 3 or 4 courts we've got the junior program, and on the other courts some of these parents are joining in for 1 hour doing their give it a go sessions, and that's been really great to link the two together.
Yeah. And then finally, just a little bit about sort of some data and our court allocation, which is dictated by a good squash committee that's behind the coaches. So we tend to run at about 90% of in peak hours of booked courts. So between 4 and 8 p.m, we've got 9 out of 10 courts being used throughout the duration. Off peak, we currently run approximately, depends on the time of year, but approximately sort of 30 to 40% of courts being used off peak. And we're just trying to really fill those off peak slots with non-member sessions, university, racquetball is particularly popular off peak, schools program, etc. And just to give you some idea, and Pete's been very influential on this as a squash chair, it's getting that right court allocation for a coach in the club. So again, I think it's just worth sharing. Again, every court's got a different number of courts, but we work at 30%, on an average of 30% of our peak courts are used by coaches.
So that's at least 3 to 4 courts, Monday to Friday, 4 till 8 p.m. are being taken over by coaches running group coaching, individual coaching, university sessions or whatever it is. And then the coaches have got free reign over weekend courts and off-peak courts as well.
Just another question's come in, which I think is quite useful for the group. So can non-members participate in the Give It a Go scheme, or is it just members?
Yeah, I should have covered that. Yeah, so as a club, we're clearly a members club, a private members club, but all of our programs are open to non-members at an additional fee. So our junior program, we actually have about 40% of our kids are non-members on our junior program. They pay a bit extra for the group coaching, but they're allowed onto the program. Same for the Give It a Go. Same for the any group coaching we do. The only thing we don't really promote to non-members is our club night and our internal leagues and the booking of courts, clearly, because that's a privilege of the members that they need to have access to. But yeah, we've actually done a fairly successful, could be better, but a fairly successful business lunchtime session on a Wednesday that we promote to local businesses where non-members can come in and pay lower than a guest fee at £5 to come in and play in a lunchtime, and that's been quite successful. We could certainly do it better, but we're very open as a club, and I think we need to be open to access for non-members and then engaging with those non-members however you possibly can, whether it's your staff, your committee, your coaches, to then look at potentially upselling your membership, or certainly making them aware that there's other sessions they can come to at a higher fee than a member fee. But yeah, we're very open to non-member usage.
And then what do, again, just back on the costings, what do non-members pay for that Give It a Go?
So we, that's a good question. Okay, so off the top of my head, our group coaching program for adults runs at £6 an hour, and for non-members is £8.50 an hour. For juniors, our average hourly rate for a junior program is about £9 for juniors and about £12 for non-members. And then we do a deal. So the Give It a Go program, we charge £50 to non-members. So they're basically getting 12 weeks of coaching, 12 hours of coaching for £5, which is less than our normal group coaching program. But they're committing to a 12-week program. They're not doing it as pay as you go, which is how the rest of our adult program works. So a non-member can come to a beginner's session or an intermediate session and pay as you go, but the Give It a Go, we do £50 for the 12 weeks. Just moving forward just quickly, so some potential ideas that we're looking at as a club to try and flourish out of COVID. We're looking at paddle. Interesting, Ray, as well. We're potentially going to be looking at putting paddle in this summer. And we're always looking at our facility development plan and tend to be looking sort of 5 years ahead. And there is talk of an all-glass court for the club, but at the same time, we need to certainly survive COVID, as I'm sure every squash club here need to, and are probably looking at some more immediate quick sales than an all-glass court currently. And then finally, I just feel it's been important to plan ahead. So COVID has probably made me plan more than ever before, although I think we've done it fairly well as a club. But we as a club have a plan for our reopening, whenever that is, and we have a different plan in place depending upon what tier we go into. And as a club, we have 3 key areas within that plan: communication to our current members, so they're aware of what's opening when, what access they've got, what booking rights they have, what courses are available to them, etc. Promotion externally to recruit new members. So as I said, I'm sure a number of clubs have lost members over the COVID over the last year. So there'll be a real push on recruiting new members. And then another big one for our rackets department, so tennis and squash, will be just getting people on court that haven't played, getting people on court that haven't played between the lockdowns because they haven't been comfortable due to no vaccine and the risk of coming back. And engaging people, you know, our team players, getting them back into team training. And that's a massive area for us and our sport, I think, coming out of COVID, because we will be seeing the effects of a reduced participation over years to come, I believe.
Mike, just another question that's come through. Did you find it challenging to get your existing members to be comfortable with being so open to non-members? Were there any obstacles there, or
yeah,
not
look,
particularly?
look, I've been at the club a long time. There's been a number of obstacles since I've been there, so I haven't really touched on, you know, a change of squash chairman over. You know, I've had 3 different squash chairmans over the years. That's made a huge difference. And actually, then interestingly, Ray, sort of a comment for you, really, Ray, again, talking about, you know, what type of members you have at your club, and the vision and mission statements that you have as a club dictate what type of members you retain and then attract. So, I mean, I'm going back probably 8 years ago now. We had a very awkward group of disgruntled old racquetball members that really struggled seeing kids on courts and kids running around corridors and coaches taking over too many courts and non-members accessing courts in the daytime, even though we've got, you know, 6 courts sat empty. So don't get me wrong, and there's been hurdles that we've had to jump over. And I think as a coach and as an employed coach, there's a key to getting the right people in to back you, whether that's you know, a chief exec, a senior management team, a committee, a coaching team. You know, since Mike's come on board, he's been really supportive, and everyone's trying to achieve the same goal. I think if you haven't got your vision and your mission statements there for members to see and for staff to see, you don't really know, you know, where you're going. And I think that's do you agree with that, Pete? You're very strategic.
Yeah. No, I do. I really, you know, you've got to have a vision, and, you know, whether you like it or not. And in my reply to Ali Farag, I said, I wish I was 50 years younger. You know, children are the future, and, you know, we've got to get them more engaged. And I think social media is part of that. And then the other thing, I'd just like to build on what the two Mike said about reopening. I really think for everybody in this call, you know, that is a real challenge, because there's, you know, we haven't played squash really for I don't know how long now. I've lost track of it. But, you know, people have got used to not playing squash, and somehow we've got to get them back on court. You know, I've noticed it getting out of bed in the mornings. It's a lot easier these days. My knees back don't hurt. But, you know, I think that's a challenge that we really need to do a lot in our clubs to get people back in, and then get them back on court. I think that's really, really important, really.
Yeah, I like the term to reset everything. Let's reset everything, and let's reset and move on again.
Yeah, I think specifically, I think the question around the non-member access is an important one for me, actually. So when I first came to the club, we were member this, member that, and actually didn't do anything for non-members. And clearly we've taken you through a number of things here that we now, you know, it's not an open door policy because they need to be a member to access a lot of stuff, but we have external events, we have all our programs available to non-members. And I think what you've got to think about is that non-member could potentially become a member if you do the right things and you upsell well enough. And you know, every club in Middlesex is going to need new members. So being open to non-members in a way that doesn't contradict and doesn't devalue being a member, I think is really important.
That is wonderful. Are there any last minute questions? Oh, there's actually one here from Gail. Actually, before COVID, many people were talking about pay and play, but that is difficult to make viable. There is, Gail, there is somebody that does this very well, and I'm quite keen to study it myself, which is Squash on Fire, because their whole operating model is turn up and play and not be a member. So I guess this is going to be another focused session that we're quite keen to put on. So for those of you that are not familiar with Squash on Fire, just go onto their website, take a look. They do charge astronomical rates, but they are, from what I can see, pretty successful at doing that. But yeah, watch this space.
That's great. Thank you.
You should also look at one of the biggest club in the world, the one in Poland. They do charge a lot for their courts over there, 30, 35, 40 euros a court. So it's quite expensive to play squash, but they are absolutely rammed to the hilts in Poland. So watch this space.
I think just
squash players in the future.
A point
and I say different membership models and different payment models. It's easier for a new club to come in and say, well, this is what we're going to do. It's not so easy for sort of clubs that have been around for many, many years.
No, I think Gail, I would just be very open to looking when you do reopen to do anything you possibly can to get people on court. And if that is a pay-as-you-go system off peak, or I think all these things need to be considered, because the sport's going to need more people playing coming out of COVID, and clubs are going to need their courts busy and potential new members to advertise things to. So I think we're certainly as a club going to be doing some additional things that we wouldn't necessarily do pre-COVID when we come out of this lockdown, that will get more people on court and put the club on the map again locally. So
okay, thank you, that's really useful. Yeah, that will help me discuss with the committee. Great, thank you.
Good luck. And then just
go on, Mike.
No, so literally just finally, I know these things are always very difficult. I think, as I say, I wanted to thank everyone for inviting us. If people have got further questions down the line, or if there's a particular area that's really relevant for their club they'd like to discuss further, then Vicky's got my contact details, so feel free to reach out, and it will give me something to do in lockdown 3 to help anybody, hopefully.
Okay, right. So I think we're going to call it a day there. I think on behalf of Middlesex, all our clubs and coaches, really thank Edgbaston Priory for spending the time to come in and talk to us today. It's definitely given myself a lot to think about, and hoping it's given clubs also food for thought. And again, what we're really looking for is for everyone just to take something from this presentation and go back and feed it into your own clubs. So look, on behalf of Middlesex, thank you very much. If there are any final questions, please feed them through, and we'll make sure they get to the Edgbaston Priory team after this session. So thanks everybody.
And thank you to Vicky and Sharon for pulling this together.